What is up, guys? It's your boy, Rick. Oh no, our table is broken! Kackis here. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel and let me know what you think my next intro should be. That comment section is just out of control. Alright, today we have the easy guide for the Proving Grounds Grandmaster Nightfall. And I know hearing Proving Grounds GM and easy next to it is not a normal thing. This is generally considered the hardest Grandmaster Nightfall in the entire game. But my group didn't just beat it once and rush out a guide, we actually did 2 back-to-back platinum runs so we could try out even more loadouts and tactics, so I have some incredibly powerful but also pretty beginner-friendly loadouts to recommend, and then a ton of strike-specific tips to help you beat this Grandmaster as easily as possible. And so, let's get started. Now, first things first, in terms of the loadouts, I was playing a Warlock, and I'm not playing a Stasis Warlock. In fact, one of our runs was with a Stasis Warlock, and we all kind of thought this isn't the play. So what I'm actually going to recommend is a Well Warlock, and I was actually using something a little different, and that is the Stag Helmet. Now, this is going to provide about a 20-25% damage resistance whenever you have your Rift out or also in your Well, apparently. So this is going to provide that extra survivability most often when you don't have your Well. The thing is, you're so dependent on your defensive supers within this strike. When you don't have them, that's often when the wipe happens. But if you can put down a Rift that has a huge increase in survivability, it really does help. And whenever you do tank a shot and get absolute, you gain a ton of Rift energy as well, so you can just keep spamming them again and again and again. Now, as for my weaponry, I'm using the God Roll Sacred Providence from Garden of Salvation. Of course, you don't have to use this. Any good PvE kinetic pulse would do because you're using unstoppable pulse rounds. But then importantly, the exotic is the Ariana's Vow. This special hand cannon has built-in shield-piercing ammunition because there is unstoppable champions and barrier champions. So you are going to have to deal with those barriers, and the only anti-barrier rounds are auto rifle rounds, and at long ranges, that's not going to cut it. So the Ariana's is really, really valuable at dealing with those guys when they are at far ranges. Then, as for my heavy, we've got just a good linear, a threaded needle here with Vorpal weapon. That's what you want because you are going to have to do a lot of damage to champions, bosses, the tanks, and so on. So these linears absolutely crack. Then, as for my armor, guys, it's all about survivability, so I'm using Protective Light. This is one of the best PvE mods in the game, giving you a huge amount of resistance when your health gets low as long as you're charged with light, and Ada1 actually sold this a couple of days ago. If you missed it, well, then you don't follow me on Twitter, gamer, at @RickKackis, because I was tweeting out that people should buy this thing, so you were told. Alright, but to become charged with light, really just taking charge is a really easy way to do so, and I've actually got a Radiant Light because I'm going to be using my super a lot, and this is going to get my allies charged with light, and because I'm using Radiant Light, and that's an arc mod, I can use Striking Light. This is an incredibly slept-on mod for PvE. We do not care about the effect at all. We care about the secondary effect where gain damage resistance against combatants while sprinting. That's always active, whether or not you're charged with light, as long as you're using another arc mod, and that is just going to increase our survivability even more so. So we're really hard to kill with this loadout. Now, I should mention, if you don't want to use the Stag, or you're running 2 Well of Radiance Warlocks, which is a pretty good idea, honestly, then the other one can use a Phoenix Protocol exotic chest piece to get your Well more often. That's going to be very, very good as well. But moving on from there, as for my Titan recommendation, guys, this is not the Grandmaster to kind of try new things, so we are going Code of the Commander plus Ursa Furiosa. Yes, it's boring, but it really is the most defensive, the best option to use here. Now, as for the weaponry, we're using an ignition code specifically with blinding grenades. This is really good. There's going to be melee enemies that charge you, so being able to blind them and stop them in place is very valuable. And then we are using a Vex Mythic class. Now, I know for some of you guys watching are like, oh my god, Vex Mythic class, I can't beat the raid, I haven't got it yet. Don't worry, I have an alternative. But if you do have the Vex Mythic class, this is just so valuable, not only for stunning the Unstoppables, but for using the Particle Deconstruction seasonal mod and cranking enemies up to ×5 so that you can then lay into them, or your allies can lay into them with your linears and do a ton of damage. Again, if you don't have a Vex Mythic class, guys, just put on the Lorentz Driver. This thing is still pretty darn powerful because it's a special linear. It is going to be better at debuffing enemies up to ×5, and then just use a powerful pulse rifle or auto rifle as your primary. Now, as for armor mods, make sure you're using Particle Deconstruction. I'm not using it because both my allies are, so I can get away with it, but it's super valuable, and honestly, we have kind of the same setup as before. Protective Light, a way to get charged with light, as well as Radiant Light and Striking Light, just for that massive survivability. However, moving on from there, for the Hunter, I'm going to recommend the Way of the Pathfinder for those Invis smoke bombs, and then the Aeon Swift Exotic Gauntlet, specifically using Sect of Insight. This is going to let you get finishers on champions that are easy to do because you can run up to them while invisible, and then produce heavy ammo for your allies. So useful, because you're going to find that your linears are getting low pretty quick after killing the tanks, the champions, the mini bosses, the bosses, and so on. Now, interestingly, my teammates actually using firstly just a decent auto rifle with Vorpal to shred the shields, but then actually the Cartesian coordinate. This was a little bit of an experiment, but it worked out pretty darn well. There's a lot of ads that charge you, and this is not going to be good in the tank room, but everywhere else it's going to be pretty darn valuable. It can also destroy the shield generators really darn fast. And then for the heavy, the Sleeper Simulant actually, and this is going to be fantastic if players don't have God Roll linear fusion rifles. They can just use this exotic, and according to my teammate who used it, he really liked it. It would hit for like 46,000 damage when an enemy was ×5 with particle, so it hits with a ton of bricks, and if you have the catalyst, it has a decent amount of reserves as well. However, again, like a good reeds, a good threaded would be fine as well. Now, as for the armor, kind of the same thing. Particle, ways to get charged with light, protective light, same shebang. Alright, so those are the loadouts. Let's move on to the strike-specific tips. Firstly, when you initially spawn in, you can ignore really all of the ads in front of you. Hang a Larry and just go up there with your Sparrow onto the cliffside, and you can kill enemies from up here. There is going to be one champion, as you can see, that hangs out over to the right side, so simply pick him off with your linears, and then you can really ignore pretty much every enemy on that right side. You're just focused on the enemies on the left side now. There's another champion, and after you kill all of these enemies, then a boss is going to spawn. I would actually recommend ignoring the boss for a little bit and going for the champion that has also spawned, because after you lower the boss's health to about a half, he's going to put up the shield barrier, and then as soon as he does, enemies are going to spawn out of that left side door, as you can see. So being on that left side is really useful for dealing with a lot of the ads and the champion and so on. So again, you don't want to over damage the boss, because then enemies are going to be spawning behind you. But after you've dealt with those enemies, then you damage the boss, the shield goes up, and the strategy for this is actually one of two things. Firstly, I should mention you can actually use the Skyburner's Oath, and it shoots right through these shields. It's going to take a while to pick away at the shield generator, but you can do that. But obviously, that's not going to be great at dealing with champions and so on. So another strategy is what you can see me do. If you stand directly in front of the shield generator, as you can see, the boss can't shoot you. So from here, don't move and simply pick away at that shield generator. Once you lower it, simply kill the boss. But then we move on to the tank room, and this is no walk in the park. Remember to kill the enemies that you can see before dropping down, and then once we drop down, we like to just set up by this left side barrier. As you can see, it does offer a lot of protection, especially when you have a well additionally, and enemies can't really hit the sword part of the well and destroy it as easily from here as well. So you have that well and simply try to go to town on as many enemies as you can. Really focus fire. If you see a champion like off to the left side, guys, there's a barrier champion to the left, let's go for it. Use your heavies and just try to hit that guy down as quickly as possible. Same goes for mini bosses and so on. Now, there is a little bit of a trick I have for the tank guys. There's scions in these Cabal tanks. Now, the scions actually have a void shield, but you can ignore that and just go for the tank itself. Like, especially if you do have a guy with a Vex Mythic class, they can just shoot the actual tank, and then when the tank blows up, it takes out the void shielded scion regardless. So you don't actually have to utilize, anti-void stuff on those guys. Now, once you do kill those guys, another wave is going to spawn, including 2 massive Cabal tanks. The biggest tip here is just focus fire one of them, specifically the left one, as quickly as possible. With Particle, that's actually a lot easier than it's been in previous years. So you can schmelt that guy with those linears, kill him as fast as possible, and then you want to take a little bit of a breather and you want to kill the champions that are likely going to be pushing on you. Specifically, a couple of barrier champions are going to be kind of walking towards you. So melt those guys down, and then you should have enough breathing room to deal with the other tank. Now, the other tank is going to be shooting you, which is kind of why we're behind this barrier. But guys, like, as you can see, I died when I got literally direct impacted by it, but that's showing you the survivability of the stag, right? My enemies were right beside me and they actually survived that. So as long as you're not direct impacted, you should survive. Another thing to note is that there will be a point where war beasts charge in on you, so just be aware of that. Like, just before you kill that second tank, be aware of those war beasts, because you will have to kind of likely jump a little bit away, use your grenades, kill those guys, and then go back to killing that second tank, finishing off some enemies and continuing forward. Now, as you continue forward, it's pretty standard, but I should mention, when you get to this part here, be aware that there's some random like rocks that will fly by and just kill you out of nowhere. So make sure you jump across these chasms kind of one at a time so your entire team isn't randomly wiped out by the same rock. Additionally, when you pick up these orbs, then the doors are going to open and a bunch of gladiators are going to come through. So just be aware of that. Throw grenades, use supers, etc. Now, as for the second side, remember to kill the mini-boss last, because when you do kill the mini-boss, more enemies are going to spawn and they'll come in the door behind you. So again, make sure you kill the champion, kill the other enemies, and then kill the mini-boss so that you can prepare for that second wave of ads. Then, once you've planted both of those orbs, the final doors are going to open and a bunch of enemies are going to go through. Guys, remember, pop your supers. Like, seriously, do not save a single super because you will actually get them back. So, kill these enemies through this doorway. There's going to be a couple of champions. Then go up to the boss room. And again, when you actually activate that thing, as you can see, you instantly get your super. So again, you really want to use them before you get to this part. However, if you do have supers, specifically here, I had my well. As you can see, you can pop a well and then activate the objective and you're instantly going to get your well back. So you can actually start the encounter in a well and have another one ready to go. So that's potentially a tactic as well. Now, as for the boss, as you can see, we like to hang out at this back corner here. The boss is not going to push up onto you until the very end of the boss fight, and she's going to shoot out those solar orbs. You can just shoot them. Honestly, as you can see, just with primaries, as long as you're on top of it, as long as your teammates are calling out orbs, or solar orbs, or fireballs, whatever, if you team fire them, you could take them all down pretty darn fast. Now, after damaging the boss for a bit, she's going to go into a shield. Now, from here, You are going to have a couple unstoppable champions spawn. If you're on top of things, this is a great opportunity to get a finisher and get some heavy ammo, honestly. But once you do deal with that champion, guys, honestly, it's going to take a little bit longer, but the safest approach is actually to wait. The boss actually has a limited amount of fireballs. That's right, it will not constantly shoot. Once they've shot, I think like 13 waves of fireballs, it'll stop. And the boss will just never shoot them again until the next phase. So you can easily stay behind cover, use your primaries, shoot those fireballs down, and when they stop, that's your moment to move up and destroy the shield. Now, as for the shield, the best approach is literally just to spread around the boss behind cover, and when the boss is facing one teammate, the teammates on the other side go in, do some damage, and then the boss is going to turn around, and then they back out, go behind cover, the other teammate goes behind, like you're just kind of baiting her. Wherever she's facing, come in the other way and do some damage to the generator, as you can see. From there, just do damage to the boss. Then the boss is going to go to the far side of this arena. But as long as you hold out back here, the fireballs cannot reach you. Literally impossible for them to hit you. However, when you're back here, 2 unstoppable champions are going to spawn, and at least one of them, usually the left side one, as you can see, is going to teleport out of thin air right next to you. It's going to happen. It is 100% going to happen, so just be aware of it. I have no idea why Bungie hasn't fixed this. It's probably ended so many runs, but if you know about it, you can usually pre-put down your well. It'll kind of appear, you can have Unstop ready to go, stun it, and absolutely melt it. Then usually the other one doesn't teleport. However, I think last year, like sometimes we did have both of them teleport at the same time. Again, just be aware of it, melt them down as quickly as possible, and from here you can literally wait out all of the fireballs in the back in complete safety. Then when the fireballs have stopped spawning, move ahead and kind of do the same tactic, like jump up to wherever she's not. She is going to stomp you. So if you jump up to the right side and she's on the right side, you're going to get stomped. So make sure if she's on the right side, someone jumps up on the left side, does some damage, she's going to move over towards them, they jump down, and then someone on the opposite side jumps up. Like, again, you're just baiting her, you're just going up to where the boss is not. Eventually, after doing enough damage, you want to retreat all the way back to where you just were. Now, from back here, there's going to be a ton of ads. So I'm just going to be honest with you guys. The best approach we've found is kind of ignoring the ads and just melting the boss, right? Just put absolutely everything you have into the boss, and as long as you have some ammo, which again you should because of those Aeon Swifts, you will be able to melt the boss. And if you're gonna die, like I die here, go out swinging, right? Like do as much damage as you can so your allies can hopefully finish off this boss. However, if you do want to deal with the ads, or if you do have a super that can deal with the ads, for example, like Ursa's, and you're using your shield throw to kill some of the ads, you can also, when the boss charges you and it doesn't look like it's going well, you can rotate away, just run to the opposite side of the map, as you can see, if you need a little bit more safety, and then from here, you can melt the boss. It depends on how well your melt goes. Like honestly, if you have a Vex to get it up to ×5, and then you just go to town with linears, you'll be able to melt that boss pretty darn fast, like basically as she's getting to you. But hey, that's why I'm using the Stag. You're going to need that extra damage resistance because you're going to take some damage doing that. And so guys, that is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.